This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Okay, so if we want to talk about things that went well this week, it's not going to start with the score. It's not going to start with anything that happened in that game. The only thing that went well for the Cleveland Browns this week is the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers got blown out by the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals got blown out by the Tennessee Titans. Go figure that, right? You know, maybe the team that the Browns blew out last week, maybe when Deshaun's healthy, this team's actually really good. I want to remind people of a game in 2019. The Browns played the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Both teams, I believe, were 2-1, and the Browns completely blew out the Baltimore Ravens in that game. We thought that was the turning point in that 2019 season for us, and the turning point in the negative direction for the Ravens. It went the other way. I say that not to suggest that the Browns are going to win 12 straight. I say that to remind you that it's still really early in the season. Week 4 is a small part of the whole picture. We're not even a quarter way through the season. And I also think, and I illustrate that point to point out, that the bye week is coming at a great time. You had some nicks and bumps on defense. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith both missed time in this game, but eventually came back because of some injuries. So not great there, but hey, you get the time, the bye week to rest up. And also there were a couple of drives there where it looked like Baltimore figured something out versus this Browns defense. And it's nice to have that on tape. It's not nice to have it happen, but it's nice to have that on tape so you can figure out over the bye week how you defend against that before you play a team that's going to run a lot of misdirection at you in the San Francisco 49ers. Offensively, there's almost nothing to take away from in this game. There are going to be people who try to make larger points about the play calling. There are going to be people who try to make larger points about this part of the offense, that part of the offense. And look, I'm just going to keep it 100% real with you. No team loses their best 2 players on offense. And right now the Browns are out Nick Chubb and they're out Deshaun Watson. And looks good. The Chiefs would not look good without Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes. I don't care who else is on that offense. You don't have those 2, you're going to stink. The Baltimore Ravens would look terrible if they did not have Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. You can go, Joe Burrow would look terrible without, well, the Bengals would look terrible without Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They look terrible today with them, right? So 1, bad games happen, and 2, this was our obvious recipe for a horrible offensive performance. Now, some of us were a little bit deluded because we felt like, hey, DTR is going to step in there and he played so good in the preseason and we had these high hopes for him. And today was a crashing blow back to reality that DTR is a rookie who was drafted in the 5th round. And rarely are rookies who are drafted in the 5th round ready to play in week 4 of their rookie year. It just is what it is. He looked bad. He looked like a guy who was not ready. I don't know if that defines his whole career. It's 1 game for him. But the good news is that he's not going to have to, hopefully, he's not going to have to play much after this. But we knew what this offense was going to look like the second he was out. We knew that this was going to be a defensive battle, a defensive struggle, and that the offense at the very least had to play a clean game. And once DTR threw that interception, had multiple turnovers, it was a wrap. Because that blew out the window the type of game that the Cleveland Browns needed to play in order to be successful. Again, you could try to make this about the play calling. It's not about the play calling. Like, I don't know if the play calling was good. I don't think it was. But also, I know that the quarterback play was just terrible. And the quarterback play was terrible because you threw out a 5th round rookie. And some are going to make the point, well, hey, maybe if Josh Dobbs is out there, this game looks different. I don't think so. I don't think the problem is that you didn't have Jacoby Brissett, that you didn't have Josh Dobbs, that you didn't have a good enough backup in there. The problem was that Deshaun Watson could not play. And that's a big problem for this team if Deshaun Watson cannot play. They're already out Nick Chubb. Hey, if Nick Chubb were still healthy and DTR had to play, I bet this game looks a lot different for DTR because you have the Nick Chubb safety blanket. But the truth is that you don't have the Nick Chubb blanket. You don't have the Deshaun Watson blanket. You just had a mess. And that mess is going to look like a mess. Who's going to save the offense when Nick Chubb or Deshaun Watson's not out there? And the answer is nobody. And here's where we get to my second point about this. We have to understand the predicament that we're in. I understand when Nick Chubb was still healthy, why we were running some of these quarterback design runs and why we felt like, we had a little bit of leeway to put the quarterback at a little bit more risk. But I need Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski both, because this is on both of them, to understand they need to prioritize for his health more. Kevin needs to do it. Deshaun Watson needs to do it. And quite frankly, Deshaun has much more say in this conversation than Kevin. Kevin can suggest some things, but Kevin can't make Deshaun slide. Kevin can't make Deshaun get rid of the ball. Now, Kevin can also not call a run play up the middle where he forces his quarterback to basically run the football like a running back. Not a great decision. Really don't love that, especially in a game that was handled. Don't love that. And that decision and Deshaun compounding that decision with the ideal that he wasn't going to slide at all, that he was just going to power through those two. There's a change of mindset that is necessary for both these guys. Right now, the mindset had been, hey, man, we can make it happen. We're going to run through guys. We're going to be a little bit it's been a reckless mindset at the quarterback position when it comes to Deshaun's health. Both Kevin and Deshaun. Deshaun has not been making great decisions for his own health. Kevin has not been doing anything that's aiding Deshaun to make better decisions. That has to be both of their goal. Hey, Deshaun, we got to make sure that you stay healthy. You got to get rid of this ball. You got to slide more. And Deshaun has to make that decision himself. I'm older. I can't do these things that I used to do. I can't take these hits that I used to take. I can't keep playing the same exact style of football. You could play a version of it, but you can't play the same exact style of football because now you're in a position where you miss a game and DTR has to play. And it's not like the game plan has been thinking that DTR is going to have to play against a division opponent for this first time in NFL. And he looks predictably terrible. Look, DTR had a horrible game today. And it goes beyond the stats. If you wonder why the Browns had so many false starts, so many illegal motions, that's on DTR. Right? He's not snapping the ball at the right time. He's not making sure guys. He looked like a guy who the moment was too big for. And maybe if you have a veteran backup in, like if you had Jacoby or Josh Dobbs, you lose this game by 17, but you still lose this game. Right? So people who are going to want to relitigate that trade, they're going to be there, but I don't know if that's the most important thing. Because the problem isn't if we have a better backup. The problem is that we had to see the backup. And that's the problem that the Cleveland Browns need to spend this bye week focusing on. We can cry all the live long day about who the backup is and, oh my God, the backup's not good. We shouldn't want to see the backup. There's no backup in the world that makes you feel good about playing a football game with your backup quarterback. The solution is not getting a better backup quarterback. The solution is making sure you don't see your backup quarterback if you're the Cleveland Browns. So I need Kevin and honestly, 100% Deshaun Watson to focus on that, because I have not seen a quarterback who's committed to his own safety. I have not seen a quarterback who's committed to playing a different style to make sure he doesn't get hurt. And I assume you come play with Kevin Stefanski because you want to do some of those things. I have not seen somebody who looks like that's something he's interested in. That needs to change. I hope this was a reminder. I hope while they were watching the offense be absolutely dog do, that reminded them the importance of staying healthy. Nick Chubb ain't coming through that tunnel this year. Your safety blanket is gone. If Deshaun Watson goes down, this offense goes down with it. You're like every other team in NFL. Look, for a long time, we've had this free ride. If the quarterback sucks, if the offense goes down, we got Chubb. We no longer have the life vest. If the quarterback goes down, that's it. It don't matter what the play call is. It don't matter what the adjustments are. That's it. You have nothing that defenses are worried about, because the only thing right now that they're worried about is Deshaun Watson. If you don't have that, you have nothing as an offense. You need to understand that and play and call games. And if you're Deshaun Watson, most importantly, because again, you're the one in charge of getting rid of the ball. You're the one in charge of sliding. You need to have that understood, because if you don't, you're going to continue to miss games, and we're going to have this shit happen all season. And we're going to see a team that's talented enough to win 12 games in NFL win like 8. Now, I don't think DTR is going to look as bad as he did today if he plays again, but I just don't want to see him again, because that means Deshaun's not playing. Again, the only good news is the stuff that happened outside the game. The Pittsburgh Steelers lost in a pretty embarrassing fashion with their starters, and so did the Cincinnati Bengals with all of their starters. You lost to a Ravens team who is missing some guys, but they have their best players, right? They have Mark Andrews. They have Lamar Jackson. And again, hats off to them, because I felt like Lamar Jackson played an excellent game today. If we're going to talk about this defense, I'm not overly concerned. I think the defense really had one bad quarter, and I'm going to be a little bit more forgiveful on that quarter, because what I saw was just not great tackling. And when your offense is giving you no hope on that side of the ball and putting you out constantly, you're just going to get that. I don't care what defense you have. You're just going to get that. So that's that on the defense. You would hope that if Deshaun's out there, they play a more complete game. But hats off to the Ravens. They played like an elite football team today. Lamar Jackson looked like an MVP quarterback, 4 touchdowns. Can't hate on him. Can't hate on him. Can't hate on him. Their offense created all of their success. Now, the Ravens defense, they looked a lot better than they were supposed to today. That's because DTR is just not ready to play. He's just not ready to play. Now, I don't know if DTR looked unready to play in practice. And again, I don't think it matters. The problem is that Watson's not there. And it becomes insanely easy to play defense against the Cleveland Browns when they have no game changers out there. Like, Amari Cooper's a really good player. He's not a game changer. Elijah Moore, he could be, but he's not right now. You have no game changers out there. You have nobody to worry about. Jerome Ford's not like that. He's not Nick Chubb. So that's the issue. That's the issue. Deshaun has to understand he's 28, not 25. The stuff he used to do 4 years ago in Houston, that's not stuff he can do now all the time. Maybe in the playoffs. But if you want to get to the playoffs, you have to stay healthy. You got to adjust. Because your career, if you're Deshaun Watson, can go one of two ways. You can have a long second window of your career and be like Aaron Rodgers and be like all these other quarterbacks that we see play to their 30. Or you could be like Cam, use your body as a battering ram, and peak when you're 28. Because Cam Newton had that MVP season in 2015, and he was done after that. Real question. Hey, if you're around Deshaun Watson, if you're one of his teammates, or if you're on his team or squad or whatever, you're his quarterback coach, you really need to tell him this. You need to key in on that. Focus on that. Because he's at that crossroads. He can continue to keep using his body like this and end up like Cam on a podcast talking about he'll beat somebody back up at 30, or he can adjust and be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL for a very long time, because he has the ability though. But if he doesn't give him the chance to go out there and play football because he's hurt, it ain't gonna happen. And he's 28, man. And any of us who knows who have been 25 and are now 28 or have been 28, you know that once you get to your late 20s, your body don't bounce back from shit just like it used to. It is what it is. You just got to take less punishment. That's on Kevin, but it's really on Deshaun too. Defensively, bad tackling, not their greatest effort, but I can't blame them. They got like 4 3-and-outs, and then the offense gave up 7 points. And it's not Deshaun going out there. It's DTR, and he looked like dog do. Yeah, I can't imagine getting motivated after a while on that. Just couldn't. So that's just a predictable result. Field goal, all that stuff was fine. Offensively, again, it's a mess. The offensive line, I felt like held up early in this game, but then they got fatigued late and you're not moving the ball. Look, a lot of the bad execution you're going to see in the third or fourth quarter of a game like this has more to do with the fact that they know they're cooked and you're just getting worse efforts now. You know what I mean? Like there's not much to take away from that. If you're the Browns, this is a perfect opportunity to go into the bye week. You know you have some things to adjust defensively. You know you have some things to adjust offensively. And most importantly, Deshaun Watson now knows how important his health is. I don't know if he knew it before, but I hope he understands the scope of how serious it is that he stays healthy. Because that's what we're going to get if he's not in there. Now we know, right? Now we don't have to call for DTR every time Deshaun throws an incompletion. That's the good news. We don't have to argue about the backup. You know how Cleveland loved the backup quarterback. We don't have to do that anymore. That's the good news. Congratulations. We're not going to bitch and moan about the backup quarterback anymore. The bad news is, hey, man, you got to stay healthy, and you have a quarterback who has not been doing stuff that encourages me in his ability to stay healthy. But that's an adjustment that they're going to have to make. It's an adjustment that's been made plenty of times before. Look at Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes has changed up his style significantly. So that's going to be up to Deshaun. He's got to start playing like a quarterback who's 28 years old, not a quarterback who's 25, and then he'll be healthy for this. Because, unfortunately, once you're 28, man, your reckless decisions with your bodies, you realize have serious consequences. But that's this week's game. We're going into the bye week, and I think that's good for everybody. Get healthy, and you could wash all this away if you have a great and impressive performance, win or loss, versus the San Francisco 49ers, and you can get on with the rest of your season. Again, it's early, but you want to see some of these adjustments start to take shape. And also, here's another thing to be positive about, right? I'll leave you a nugget to be positive about. When Deshaun Watson was in here, when this team was playing at a relatively high level last week, they beat the Tennessee Titans 27-3. And everybody assumed that Tennessee Titans team was trash. That defense was garbage. That offense is garbage. And I remember saying, I think that Tennessee Titans team is a lot better than people expect. And I think they're going to play some good football down the stretch. I remember saying that. And you know what they did today? Oh, Deshaun Watson getting 300 yards, 2 touchdowns was fluke because the Tennessee Titans defense isn't the NFL defense, was somehow Joe Burrow after he looked like he bounced back on Monday Night Football, right? 20 of 30, 165. So apparently that secondary is not terrible. Huh. Who knew? Who knew? Who knew? What about that offense that they shut down? Hey, when this defense was firing at all cylinders, what did that offense for Tennessee do? Oh, Ryan Tannehill, 240, 1 touchdown. Oh, Derrick Henry, 22 carries, 122 yards on 5.5. I thought he was cooked. So on one hand, look, we know what it can be if they don't stay healthy. This is the result. This is what we're going to get from this team if they don't stay healthy. But if this team stays healthy, that same team that dog walked the Tennessee Titans so bad that people were convinced that they were going to be a horrible team, that same team that they did that to just completely dog walked the Cincinnati Bengals, who people think are going to make the AFC Championship game still. So long term, the vision's still there. This team can accomplish everything that they need to. Even that was without Nick Chubb they did that with, right? So everything that they want is still ahead of them. It can still happen. But Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski have to understand how important it is that he stays healthy. And outside of that one run call, last week's game is a template. But that one run call bit you in the ass. The decision not to slide for Deshaun bit him in the ass, and the decision to call it, period, bit him in the ass. Now, I don't know if it was a call. It probably was a check, to be honest with you, so that might be more on Deshaun than I think if it was a check, and usually those kind of play calls are checks, but you just can't have that in there anymore. Unless you think it's going to be a walk-in touchdown, you can't check to it. No reason to. But if you're looking for things to talk about for this game, positive, negative, that's where you go at. People are going to try to tell you that it's all this other stuff that went wrong in this game. Look, people arguing about the play calling, arguing about who the backup is. It's like if you see a man on the sidewalk with a gunshot wound and you're asking him, what did he eat today? Did he have enough water? Like, that's what that is, okay? The man has a gunshot wound. That's why he's laying down. The water is not relevant at this point. But that's my thoughts. Now let's read some of yours.